You shall set the blessing upon Mount Gerizim and the curse upon Mount Ebal. So now we know where the Samaritan woman gets her idea that we should worship on this mountain. This is where the blessings are. But she's trusting in the well of Yaakov, the one that has supplanted the truth with something else. In this verse alone, we read Yahuwah Elohecha, which is a personal and intimate term speaking to us as individuals. We must consider, what we have to consider is that only when we are intimately connected to our Elohim by seeking to mimic his ways, that we're able to truly grasp the life that he alone can give us. And it is only in this way that we can truly discern blessings from curses. How do I know that this trouble that I'm going through is actually a curse? I'm freaking out, wigging out, and stressing out over something that is actually there to help me. But when something bad happens, we're all so excited because we only look at the good, right? What do you look at when something bad happens? The bad. You look at the potential end of the world that's happened because I've dropped a glass. Okay? What would happen if we started to find just one little positive something in a negative, and then take that positive something and do something with that positive? We'd overcome that negative. And along the way, what would happen if we actually stopped and had a conversation with our Elohim? Fix a glass of rooibos tea, get some delicious blueberry scones, or milk tart, and have a conversation with our Elohim. And then be willing to write down the thoughts that come into your mind. Okay? So, seeking to mimic his ways, that we're able to truly grasp that life that he alone can give us. And it is only in this way that we can truly discern blessings from curses. A question that we have to truly ponder is, what is it to be in the image and likeness of Elohim? That's a question to take home and chew on. What is it to truly be in the image and likeness of Yahuwah Elohim? Verse 30 says, are they not beyond the Jordan, behind the way of the going down of the sun, in the land of the Canaanites that dwell in the Arabah, over against Gilgal, beside the terebinths of Moreh? It's very poetic. What does it mean? When we read something out of the Torah, first thing that should come to mind is, what does this mean? Okay? So are we able to cling to the ways of our Elohim and be a reflection of him when we are crossing beyond the Jordan? What does Jordan mean? To drag down. So are we able to cling to the ways of our Elohim and be a reflection of him when we are crossing beyond those things that drag us down? Are we able to do this when it appears that the light is fading around us, the way of the going down of the sun? Are we able to continue to mimic the ways of Yahuwah Elohim when we're surrounded by a constant barrage of falsehood that threaten to separate us from our Elohim in the land of the Canaanites that dwell in Arabah? It's interesting, that word happens to mean to divide. Do we find ourselves in a constant state of helical motion? Remember, the Torah time is helical. It always comes back. Do I learn over here so that when I'm over here and it's coming back around, I can apply what I've learned over here? Okay? Do we find ourselves in a constant state of helical motion, repeating the same chaos over and over, which is over against Gilgal? Gilgal is a word that means chaos. All of this, we cannot recognize the rest, deliverance, and restoration that we are taught to live by and put into action in the Torah of our Elohim. In other words, if we will take the time to reside by the terebinths of Moreh. Terebinths is a tree that whenever we read about the terebinth tree, the oak trees in the Torah, someone's resting. Someone has stopped to take a breather. The terebinths of Moreh. More is a word that means, literally, it's a male teacher. To teach, to learn, to be instructed by. The rest that we find in our Elohim. Can I expand then on the fourth commandment? Don't forget the Shabbat. Don't forget to stop on Shabbat. Okay, so fine. I stop. I don't do anything. But can I expand on that based on what I consider in the terebinths of More? Do I just sit there, twiddle my thumbs? I make fun of that the Shabbat Shalom song. I do the extreme reform Jew version. Shabbat Shalom, we're stuck here at home. You know, when I stop, do I stop to have a relationship with my Elohim? When I stop, do I stop to learn and be taught by my Elohim in that? The terebinths of Mamre are the things that help me when the sun's going down, when I'm entering into the land of the Canaanites, when I'm crossing the Jordan. Okay? Verse 31, for you are to pass over the Jordan to go in and possess the land which Yahweh your Elohim gives you, and you shall possess it and dwell therein, and you shall observe to do all the statutes and ordinances which I set before you this day. So when I'm able to finally cross over those things that drag me down, when I become Ibrit, remember years ago we talked about, B'nai Yisrael. We've talked about B'nai Yisrael a number of times, that B'nai, the root Bana, is to be restored and established because of Israel, because of the authority of Elohim. And we considered Yahudim, what it is to be a Jew. Yahudim, to be grateful and to praise. To be grateful and to praise for what I have. But what about being a Hebrew? We kind of leave Hebrews out these days because they've been replaced by Jews, I guess. I don't know. The Ibrit, that I have crossed over from one stage of life to another stage of life. And when I cross over the Jordan, when I cross over those things that drag me down, I go from one stage of life to another stage of life, and I find myself in the place that my Elohim will show me. In other words, I find myself in Makom, the place, another name for our Elohim. I find that it is within Him that I live and move and have my existence. Okay? It's not until we've been able to Shema that we can, according to verse 32, Shamar, the word of Yahuwah, to observe and to put into effect the Torah of our Elohim by clinging to the ways of Yahuwah our Elohim. In our coming to understand the word of Elohim, we must seek to treasure and preserve it. How can I treasure and preserve something that I don't understand? I must be willing to Shema His voice before I can Shemar His covenant. I have to understand what His word says before I can actively engage treasuring and preserving the covenant. I have to understand what the truth is before I can worship the Father the way it's intended for me to worship. Paul says the Torah is spiritual. Yahusha says, as the song said earlier, those who worship the Father must worship in any way they feel they want to worship. It doesn't make a difference. You can be a Buddhist or whatever. That's not what it says. What does it say? The Father is seeking who? Those who will worship how? In spirit and in truth. I must worship in spirit and in truth. I must understand what the Torah is telling me, more than simply saying I'm Torah observant. I must be Torah active in my life, and then I can begin to preserve and treasure the covenant relationship that I have, the connected relationship that I have with my Elohim. In our coming to understand the word of Elohim, we must seek to treasure and preserve it. In doing this, we cross over the Jordan, those things that drag us down, and find ourselves living in the land, the life that our Elohim gives us. The word for give is again noten. The life that he has entrusted to us and has appointed us to live. Remember, noten, aside from set or to give, also means to entrust. I have been entrusted with this life that I'm living. What am I going to do with it? Yahusha gave us a wonderful parable about a master who goes away and he leaves his servants X amount of talents. And this one does X amount with the ones he's given, and this one does X amount with the one, and triples and quadruples and being excessive, but they do something with what the master's, and they bring fruit for what the master's done. They bring profit to the master, except for that one that takes his talent, buries it in the ground, and does nothing with it. He doesn't return anything to his master. So I've been entrusted with this life. What is noten? Again, if we look at noten, we have the two nuns, the two letters that represent life, our spiritual life, our physical life, our continuance of life, that at the core must be my covenant relationship. My relationship with my Elohim has to be at the core of everything. Okay? More than understanding what it says on the surface, I have to understand what it says under the layers of cake. Because like Donkey tells Shrek, not everybody like onions. Okay? All right. So having considered this, we must take into account that to love Yahuwah Elohim with all our heart, soul, mind, and strength is to cling to his ways and be a reflection of him to the world around us. To love our neighbor as ourselves. This is not something that we can schedule for whenever it is convenient. Note that the verses have clearly said this day. Yom. Yom, this day. Okay, so it's nighttime, so I can stop doing this. I can only do it in the day, right? Yom. Remember, Yom also means an unspecified period of time, a perpetual, non-stop period of time. Okay? So, are you simply Torah observant, or are you Torah active, seeking to cling to the ways of Yahuwah Elohecha, your Elohim? Are you seeking that intimate relationship with your Elohim? If you're not being an active reflection of Yahuwah, your Elohim, to the world around you, what are you waiting for? Homiletics 101, you got to put that corny question in there. So with that, we can say grooviness has been achieved, and say